I'm Lizzie Harrison for Card Player TV, here with David Daneshgar. He seized one of his last opportunities of 2008 to put a World Series of Poker bracelet on his wrist. Congratulations, David.
Thanks, Lizzie.
So tell me about the tournament. It was a $1,500 buy-in, no limit, right?
Yeah.
So that means the field was extensive.
Yeah, pretty crazy. I think like 26 or 2,700 people.
And how was your series up to this point?
Well, the World Series is not very good. I had like two small cashes for like 3,000 or 4,000 each. I was lucky to be ahead. I won like one of the Bellagio 2K tournaments.
Oh, all right, that helps.
So that helps, and I did pretty decent in the cash games, which was good too. But for World Series of Poker tournaments, not great. But I guess until yesterday, that is.
So did you play a lot of the $1,500 no limits? I mean, I know there was quite a few of them in the last month.
I played most of like the 5K and the 10K. I played the 5K no limit, the 5K shorthanded, and the 10K heads up, and then like I'd say 3 or 4 of the smaller ones. But I always just never realized the point because I'd always get knocked out within 30 minutes. So
how'd you make it through this time?
I want to say like great skill, but I don't think that was necessarily it.
It wasn't great skill? A little bit of skill.
I think like in the beginning of these 1500s, you just have to get really lucky. I mean, at least for the first couple hands, you have to win your first hand.
Right.
The first break, I was down to like 1,900, and then I just kind of waited and picked up a big hand and doubled up, and kind of once you get to the point where you can play in these tournaments, maybe when you start with 3,000 chips, once you get to like 10,000 in chips, and the blinds are like 50, 100, 100, 200, maybe the antes come in, you can start to finally make.
Skill comes into play.
Well, you can try to make some moves, but early, I mean, it's just really like just pick up a hand or you're out.
Of course, yeah. So tell me, when did you start really chipping up in the event?
Well, I guess the first day, I got to 10K, and then after that, I made a real good run. I had a really easy table draw.
That's always lucky.
Yeah. I mean, these guys, they confessed towards the end they didn't want to play a hand till the money. I mean, they were not playing back at me.
They said this verbally?
Almost, like physically. But
it's kind of weird.
Yeah, it was. Well, I mean, you could just tell. Like a lot of people were happy to be there, and I was
Right.
just frustrated. Nothing's going on with my series, so it seemed like it was a good match. And
Good time for you to take control.
I basically got to like 40,000 on the first day.
Wow.
And I was raising a lot of pots. This is probably in the middle of the first day, and I raised under the gun with kings. It got folded around to the big blind, and he just instantly moved all in. And I instantly called him my kings. He had ace king, and I lost to runner clubs. So right away, I was down to 10,000.
Oh, that's kind of sick.
Then same thing. My table again didn't want to play a hand. We're getting close to the money, so I probably raised like. I mean, this is not normal. I don't think you can normally get away with this, but I raised maybe like 13 or 14 of the last like 20 hands to the money, just hoping nobody would pick up a hand.
And nobody picked up a hand?
Yeah, and some people did, and they said they were folding. I don't know if I can believe it, but whatever happened, I got back up to 40,000 again. And then like 3 hands away from the end of the night, I got ace king. The small blind, or the under the gun guy was starting to push because he'd finally gotten the money. He pushed all in. I looked at ace king. I called. He had 2 sevens. I lost again. So I started day 2 with 10,000 or 12,000.
So you weren't winning coin flips. Most people I talk to say, "Oh yeah, I won a lot of coin flips until I got my bracelet." You were losing coin flips. Well, you still won.
I lost, kings versus ace king. I lost 2 huge hands, and then when I lost them, I still was just chipping up. So basically, I started day 2 with 12,000, which is like one of the shortest stacks.
Yeah, definitely.
And I just decided, like, right on day 2, like, one of the first hands I'm going to push all in. I pushed all in. I had ace 6 of diamonds, and I hit a flush, doubled up. And then from there, I kind of moved up. And basically steadily moved up to, like, 100,000. And then, again, kind of a crazy hand happened where the blinds were, like, I want to say, like, 3-6, and the guy under the gun moved in for 30,000. And the button was the only guy in the tournament who had me covered. He moved all in for 120,000, and I looked in the small blind again. I don't think there's a lot of skill in here, but I picked up 2 aces in the small blind, and he had 2 queens, and I won a massive pot.
That works.
And I got to like 250K, and I was like one of the chip leaders, and basically just kind of worked my way up.
Did you maintain from there on out, basically?
Yeah, I did pretty good. Again, just trying to play small pots, and I ended the day with 1.2 million. So.
Well, when you were losing coin flips at the end of day 1, how did you manage to stay on an even keel and not just go on tilt and shove it all in?
Well, actually, I didn't. The last 3 hands before the break, I was so irritated. I just moved in blind all 3 hands, and nobody called me.
It works also.
Yeah, I even told the last hand, I'm like, I'm irritated. I'm moving in blind, and the lady folded it down. So I picked up like maybe 4,000. That's how I went from 8 to 12 right before. So
all right.
I guess I'm not the best example of composure, but.
So how were you in chips going into the final table?
I had like 1.2 million, which was like 4th out of the 9. So I actually had a pretty good stack going into the final table.
Right, a lot of room to play. And then about an hour into the final table, you ran your kings into aces again.
Yeah, that was the story of the tournament. I kept winning, and then just losing enormous pots.
Tell me about that hand. It was against High Miller, right?
Yeah, somebody under the gun raised to 80K. Another guy called, and I was on the button. I made it 300,000, and he had like 500,000 in the big blind and pushed on, so I can't fold for another 200,000. Of course, I call.
No.
And he had aces, but he did a good job of like acting for like 3 minutes.
He had you?
I mean, I was committed, but
right, you were committed either way, I guess.
But he had aces, I had kings, I lost, and so like the same story the last 3 days.
I lose on the bottom again.
Yeah, bottom again.
And so how'd you claw your way back up?
I think at that point I was just pretty irritated.
You must have been.
Yeah,
it sounds like a depressing tournament almost.
So far, it didn't seem too good. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm not happy to get 9th. I'm just going to kind of play a little bit more aggressive and just try to win this tournament. Like, I grew up in L.A., and I think once I started playing tournaments, well, first I went to Berkeley. I was able to teach a poker class and kind of got into poker then. But when I went to L.A., we played, like, at Hollywood Park, my friends and I, and they were winner-take-all tournaments.
Okay.
So I kind of decided to go back to that mentality of not looking at the prize pool and just playing to get first or out. And so... How
is that different? What style of play do you use for that?
Well, I just
more aggression?
I think, like, at that point, you don't even... Like, I think there's certain plays that dictate... like, maybe the prize pool dictates how you should play. Like, maybe you should make certain calls if you have a lot of chips because it's not worth it to get tangled in with a big stack. I just decided at that point just to go for the win. And so I basically picked up... I got a coin flip right away, and I won.
You finally won one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you wouldn't believe it. In like 4 days, I think it was just the fact that I was winning all these small pots that I got to the point where I could lose the coin flips and still be in.
That's really helpful, absolutely.
And then after that, probably one of the key pots was when I raised on the button to like 100K. And is it Corwin? Cole?
I think so.
Yeah.
That sounds right, yeah.
He was in the small blind, and he moved all in. He had like 2 million. The big blind folded, and I think I had like another extra million. So I had ace-jack offsuit, and I think we were 8-handed. And I just felt like he was weak, and I know it was just kind of, I think, crazy at the time or whatever, but I said, you know what, the same thing, like the winner take all. I think I have him. I think this is a good spot. I mean, I felt like it was. I called him, and he had like 6-8 of spades, and I won.
Your read was dead on?
Yeah, it worked out. And I mean, even when I was in there, I wasn't even that big of a favorite, but I ended up winning. And then I think from there, I just started to play more aggressive.
Tell me a little bit about heads-up play.
Well, I think going into it, like, I was pretty confident because a lot of, like, the play I do, either with my friends or online or even at LA, I think
a lot of heads-up?
Short-handed and heads-up.
Okay.
So I just decided that, like, at the point, the blinds were really big. They were, like, 50, 100,000. And he had, I want to say, like 4.5 million, 5, and I had 3. So I decided I wanted to keep the pots small. So even with like monster hands, I was limping a little bit, and he was seeing that. So I think he was afraid to raise out of the big blind.
Okay.
And so I was just able to keep the pot small and kind of just win. And then I won a real big pot later on, and it got to the point where we switched, and now I had the chip lead. And I kind of got him pretty short, and then basically one hand he limped on the button, and I raised in the big blind with 2 10s. And I could just see that he's just going to push on. It was pretty sick. And I was like, if he pushes, I call.
Right.
He said all in. Yeah. And he said all in, I call. And he had ace-7. And
held up.
I
mean, won another coin flip.
It was. I think the key in this tournament was whenever I had somebody else covered, I lost. But whenever I was all in, I was winning. So I mean, it was fortunate for me too. So everything worked out in the end. I won a couple of big hands, like short-handed, and I don't know. I'm just super excited.
So did you have a big cheering section there?
Well, I was lucky with about like 15 players to go the night of day 2. The tournament was running late. Like they probably played at 4 a.m. to the final table.
Wow.
But I had a lot of friends and family watching me online. And as soon as they found out I made the final table, my mom, my brother, and a bunch of my friends from the DPT, as we call it, but Moro and Ernest, and a bunch of other friends, they came out here. And although like most of them couldn't come out here, I had at least like 30 or 40, 50 people watching the tournament online. It was like I was getting texts as I was playing. I was playing hands, and then when I was folding, I was getting texts, what did you have, what did you have?
That must have been cool. I know everyone was rooting you on.
Yeah, it was calming. I mean, it was just cool that everybody was there.
And what was going through your mind on the very last hand when the cards are turned up?
no ace.
No ace.
I had ace 7 versus 10s. The board was clean. I was like, no ace. Hoping, but I mean, surprisingly, like at that moment in time, I always thought like when you're playing for a bracelet, at that point you'd just be crazy nervous. But I was actually, I think, pretty calm. I mean,
really?
I was like, no ace, and if it happens, I got to go grind again, try to win it. I mean, I had him covered, so it worked out. I was excited, and I mean, it was just cool to have all friends and family there.
Well, congratulations, David. Good luck in the main event.
Thanks, I'm excited.
Thanks for coming on to talk to me.
Okay.
Lizzie Harrison with David Daneshgar for Card Player TV.